After 12 years in the army, I had learned to stay silent through every insult, every laugh. But that afternoon in Dallas, when I stepped into Lone Star Armory, the laughter hit me like shrapnel. Hey, look, a walking donut! A man whistled, pointing at my stomach. A woman smirked. Sweetheart, this place sells guns, not pastries. Phones came up, cameras aimed right at my face. In an instant, I wasn't a customer. I was their entertainment. They thought I would blush and run out the door. They didn't know that every word only dragged me back to the barracks, to the years I was called Fat Carter. What they didn't know was that those years forged something inside me, something that doesn't break and never forgives. I stood at the entrance, my worn gray hoodie stretched across my heavy frame, old sneakers frayed at the seams. Eyes turned toward me, not with curiosity, but with disdain. Travis, the clerk, thin goatee and a permanent smirk, leaned over the counter. Sweetheart, he said loud enough for everyone to hear. Yoga class is across the street. We sell heavy metal here, not for people already heavy. The shop erupted in laughter. A guy in a backwards baseball cap shouted, Careful! Her backpack's probably full of potato chips. More laughter, more cameras. Every word, every chuckle pressed against me, like a hand shoving me down. But I didn't lower my head. Not once. Instead, I tightened my grip on the backpack strap and walked straight toward the sniper rifle section. Each step drew louder jeers, louder laughter. But I knew one moment was all it would take, and the whole store would go silent. The laughter followed me down the aisle, echoing against the glass cases and polished floors. I could feel the heat of their stares on my back, their grins waiting for me to trip, to fumble, to prove them right. A man in a leather vest stepped in front of me, tattoos of skulls crawling up his arms. He planted himself like a wall, his voice booming over the background gunfire from the range outside. Hey, big girl, you're blocking the view for real customers. What's in the bag? Cupcakes? The crowd roared. Someone clapped like it was a comedy show. I looked at him, steady, unflinching. My eyes held his a second too long. His smile faltered. Then I simply stepped around him and kept walking. My silence unsettled him more than any comeback could. By the time I reached the sniper rifle display, the whole store seemed to lean in, waiting for me to embarrass myself. Travis trailed behind, his sneakers squeaking against the tile. So what's it gonna be, lady? He said, sarcasm dripping from every word. Looking for something shiny to post on Instagram? Maybe a pink pistol to match your shoes. The laughter rippled again. I let it wash over me, then placed my hand on the glass. My voice came out calm, almost too soft to hear, but it carried. Show me the MRI Ghost Edition. The unreleased model. The room froze. Travis blinked, the smirk slipping off his face. The guy in the baseball cap choked on his energy drink. Even the woman twirling a fake pistol stopped mid-laugh. No one outside of classified units was supposed to know that rifle even existed. For a long beat, nobody said a word. You could hear the hum of the fluorescent lights, the faint crack of gunfire from the outdoor range. Travis's smirk twisted into confusion. The Ghost Edition. He scoffed, trying to recover. Lady, you've been reading too many video game forums. That rifle doesn't exist. But his voice cracked, just slightly. And that was enough. In the back, an older man in a patched jacket lifted his head. His eyes narrowed as if he'd heard something he wasn't supposed to. I saw one. Once, he muttered. Eastern Zone. 8 years ago, Ghost Viper Unit. The words hit the crowd like a shockwave. Phones lowered, whispers spread. Then, from behind the counter, the store manager appeared, a stocky man with a buzz cut and a jaw clenched tight. He gave Travis a look that said, "Shut up now," then walked to a locked vault in the back. Keys jingled, metal clanged. When he returned, he was carrying a matte black rifle unlike anything the store had ever displayed. Sleek lines, scope like an eagle's eye, the kind of weapon you didn't stumble across in a Dallas shop. Gasps rippled through the crowd. The woman who'd mocked me as Donut Girl actually stepped back, her phone trembling in her hand. The manager set it on the counter in front of me, his expression grim. "You better know what you're asking for," he said. I didn't answer. My fingers slid across the rifle's cold frame like they were touching an old memory. Behind me, someone whispered, "No way she even knows how to hold that thing." They were about to learn. The manager's hands lingered on the rifle, as if he wasn't sure he should even let it go. Around us, the crowd pressed closer. Phones lifted, smirks curling back onto faces as their confidence returned. They were waiting for me to fail. "Careful," the guy in the backwards cap sneered, picking up another rifle from a rack. He tossed it toward me like it was a football. "Wouldn't want those fat wrists snapping under the weight." Gasps rose as the weapon flew, but my hand shot out, catching it midair, smooth and steady. The stock landed against my palm like it belonged there. My arm didn't wobble, not an inch. The smirk slid off his face. I set the rifle down on the counter gently, like glass, then glanced at Travis. "Go ahead. Ask me to strip it." He laughed, but it was forced now, loud and brittle. "Fine. Disassemble it. Bet you can't even get the barrel off." My fingers moved before he finished the sentence. Clip, screw, pin, piece after piece came apart, falling into perfect order on the glass. 8 seconds. The rifle lay scattered like a puzzle solved in one breath. The store went quiet. The only sound was the hum of the lights and someone's nervous cough. Travis tried again. "Cute trick. You probably watched a YouTube video." I didn't look at him. I slid one piece back into place, adjusted it with a flick of my wrist, then kept going. Every motion precise, practiced, like I'd done it 1,000 times under worse conditions. Because I had. Halfway through, I pulled a paperclip from my backpack, pressed it against the receiver, and said quietly, "Bolts off by 0.3 millimeters. In sub-zero wind, this rifle would veer off target." A grizzled man in the corner, a veteran by the look of his scarred hands, spoke up, his voice rough. "How the hell would she know that?" I lifted my eyes just long enough to meet his. "Because I used it on Sunla Peak. Level 7 wind, moving target, 400 meters. The words landed like a grenade. Nobody laughed. Nobody even breathed. The woman with the fake pistol lowered it like it was suddenly too heavy to hold. The backwards cap guy swallowed hard, his energy drink sweating in his grip. Piece by piece, I rebuilt the rifle, my silence louder than any speech I could give. By the time the final click echoed through the room, no one dared meet my eyes. The store manager's jaw was tight, his buzz cut gleaming under the lights. For a long second, no one spoke. Then he finally cleared his throat, trying to seize back control. "Talking's easy," he said. "Shooting's different. Let's see what you can actually do." He gestured toward the outdoor range. "There's a coin hanging at 150 meters. Nobody's ever hit it. Not once." The crowd shifted, excited, desperate for me to stumble. Fat chance. The guy in the backwards cap jeered, his voice cracking a little too high. If she nails it, I'll mop this place with my tongue. Laughter bubbled, but it was thin now, less confident than before. I didn't waste a word. I lifted the Ghost Edition rifle, its weight balanced perfectly in my hands, and walked toward the range. Gravel crunched under my sneakers. Every step felt like it drew the entire store with me. Behind me, another man shouted, "Careful out there, donut girl! The rifle's bigger than you!" His friends roared, slapping each other on the back. I didn't even look at them. I simply shifted the rifle into my left hand like I was carrying a book, calm, fluid, unbothered. Their laughter trailed off as I reached the firing line. The coin dangled from a string, glinting in the late Texas sun. The air smelled like gunpowder and dust. I planted my feet, shoulders relaxed. I didn't adjust the scope, didn't take a practice swing. I raised the rifle, breathed once, and pulled the trigger. The crack split the air sharp and clean. The coin split clean down the middle. Two halves spun apart, falling into the dirt with a faint metallic ping. Silence. Not a breath. Not a word. The world seemed to hold itself still. Travis's clipboard slipped from his hands and clattered against the concrete. The woman with the fake pistol dropped it onto the counter, her fingers trembling. The backwards cap guy's jaw hung open, his energy drink tumbling from his grip and fizzing into the gravel. I lowered the rifle and set it back onto the bench as carefully as I had picked it up. No smile, no gloating, just precision, beginning to end. When I turned back toward the store, not one person met my eyes. Every smirk, every laugh, every insult had dissolved into something else entirely. Fear. And for the first time that day, the room was exactly as quiet as I wanted it to be. The range was still ringing from the shot, though no one dared to speak. I walked back inside, the Ghost Edition rifle steady in my hands, and set it on the counter exactly where it had been before. Every movement was deliberate, precise, like leaving no trace. For a few seconds, the crowd just stared at me, waiting for me to laugh, to explain, to break the silence. I didn't. That's when the grizzled man in the corner stepped forward, his scarred knuckles clenched around a battered rifle, his voice low but heavy. "Son of a bitch," he muttered. "That scar. On your hand. I've seen it before. Eastern Zone. 10 years ago." His eyes locked on mine, widening with recognition. "She's ghost number 17. The words rippled through the store like a bomb. Heads turned, phones lowered. Even Travis stumbled back a step, his lips parting in disbelief. I didn't confirm it, didn't deny it. I simply adjusted the strap of my backpack, the faded fabric brushing against the counter. For just a moment, a worn patch stitched into the bag caught the light. A serpent's head, jaws wide, the emblem of Ghost Viper. Gasps! A woman in designer heels actually covered her mouth. The backwards cap guy shook his head, whispering to himself, "No way, no way." Then the door opened. A tall man in a black suit stepped inside, his movements smooth, exact, like every step was measured. Dark glasses hid his eyes. He walked past the frozen crowd without a glance and came straight to me. He leaned close, his voice quiet but clear. "Confirmation code 870. Your next mission begins tonight." And then, he did something no one in that room would ever forget. He lowered his head, placed his hand over his chest, and gave the ghost viper's salute. The gunsmith's breath caught in his throat. The mercenary who had named me dropped his gaze to the floor. Travis's clipboard slipped again, hitting the tile with a dull smack. The entire store knew what that gesture meant. Ghost Viper wasn't just a name, it was a shadow, a legend, a force that wasn't supposed to exist outside classified reports. I didn't speak. I didn't need to. I turned, my backpack slung across my shoulder, and walked toward the door with the man in the black suit at my side. Each step was silent, but the weight it left behind crushed the room. No one laughed now. No one dared. By the time I crossed the threshold, the shop was already changed forever. The door closed behind me, the sound final, like a gavel striking. I didn't look back. Didn't need to. My SUV was waiting at the edge of the lot, engine humming. By the time the black-suited man and I disappeared into the Dallas dusk, the reckoning had already begun. Inside, silence stretched until it became unbearable. Then whispers, low, frantic, guilty. No one wanted to be the first to admit what they had just seen. But word travels fast, and so does consequence. Travis, the smug clerk who had laughed the loudest, didn't last 24 hours. By morning, a call came down from the owner. Short, brutal. You disrespected a classified operative. Pack your things. You're done. Travis didn't argue. For the first time in years, his smirk was gone as he walked out with a cardboard box and a ruined reputation. The backwards cap guy thought he could spin it. He uploaded the video that night, tagging it hashtag Donut Girl at the gun shop with a row of laughing emojis. But the internet doesn't forgive. By sunrise, the comments had flipped. People tearing him apart for body shaming, for mocking a woman who outshot every man in the room. His sponsor, one of the biggest outdoor brands in Texas, pulled his contract before lunch. His follower count bled out by the hour. By nightfall, he deleted the video. Too late. Screenshots last forever. The woman with the fake pistol tried to laugh it off at brunch 2 days later, turning the story into some chic anecdote for her socialite circle. But her friends had already seen the clip, passed around in private group chats, whispered about over cocktails. No one laughed with her. No one called her back. Invitations dried up, one by one. Dallas high society moved on without her, the way it always does when a mask slips. The gunsmith, though, he was different. He spent the next week tearing down every Ghost Edition replica in stock, checking the bolts, recalibrating the receivers, and just like she'd said, 3 of them carried the same 0.3mm flaw. He fixed them in silence, hands steady, but his mind replayed her scar, her grip, the precision in her movements. He kept her worn ID card in a drawer, not as a trophy, but as a reminder. The manager fared worst of all. 2 days later, a government liaison visited the shop. No words, no explanation, just a file dropped on his desk and a look that said everything. The manager shut himself in his office, blinds drawn, phone disconnected. Customers came and went, but the life of the store was gone. Bravado replaced by a chill no one could shake. By the end of the week, Lone Star Armory wasn't the same place. It wasn't loud anymore. It wasn't cocky. It was haunted. Haunted by the day a woman they called Donut Girl walked in and left them all on their knees. The black SUV merged into the Dallas traffic, taillights fading into the dusk. Inside the shop, no one moved for a long time. They stood frozen, as if speaking too loudly might summon her back. But Madison Carter was gone. She didn't post about it online. She didn't tell her story over drinks. She didn't need to. Her silence was louder than any victory lap. By the next week, Lone Star Armory had changed. The swagger was gone. Customers still came, but the laughter, the cocky bravado that had filled the air had evaporated. Whispers replaced it. Unease clung to the walls like smoke. Regulars who once joked about Donut Girl now spoke her name only in murmurs, if at all. Some said she was a former ghost sniper, codename Arrow. Others swore she was still on active missions. No one could prove it. But they all remembered the scar on her hand. They all remembered the coin splitting in midair. And they remembered how they had laughed at her body. That memory burned hottest of all. Travis drifted to another job, cashiering in silence, flinching every time someone raised a phone. The backwards cap guy stopped showing up at the range entirely. His name poisoned online, sponsors gone. The fake pistol woman scrolled her phone at home, refreshing feeds that never lit up with invitations anymore. The story spread anyway, across bars, across group chats, across whispered conversations in gun clubs and veteran halls. The overweight woman they mocked at the Dallas shop, the one who silenced them all. No one knew where she went next. Maybe Houston, maybe somewhere far away, maybe already embedded in another mission. But every person who had stood in that shop carried her with them, whether they wanted to or not. Because Madison Carter didn't just walk out with a rifle and a salute. She walked out with every insult they had thrown at her, and she turned it into something unshakable. And for anyone who has ever been laughed at, dismissed, or body shamed, her story became more than a rumor. It became a warning that sometimes the one you ridicule most is the one holding the deadliest aim.